Hello and welcome to another Edexcel iGCSE ICT past paper question. This is November 2021. This is paper 1, the written paper, total marks out of 100. So we scroll through and have a look at this. This is obviously a written paper. You will handwrite this paper, use black ink or ballpoint pen, fill in all the boxes and your details, total marks out of 100. And we'll go straight into the case study here, which is important that you always read in one of these papers. So here you've got a case study. Kay works from home. She uses ICT for business and entertainment. So having looked at that, we can jump into question 1. So question 1A for 1 mark. Kay uses a laptop for work. Which one of these features would be improved if she used a desktop replacement? What this question is saying is if she replaced her laptop with a desktop. Now, you've got options there: user interface, energy consumption, portability or performance. The user interface won't be improved. The energy consumption will be worse with a desktop and portability will definitely be worse with a desktop. The only possible answer there is D, performance. So if we go down to B, which one of these could prevent the risk to Kay's work data caused by accidental deletion? So prevention of accidental deletion, and the only possible answer there is backup. If she backs up her work, if she accidentally deletes it, then she can get it from the backup. C, Kay makes copies of her work files. One reason magnetic tape is used for this is because it can store more data than other storage media. Explain one other reason magnetic tape is a good choice. Magnetic tape can be reused many times. It's also portable. So my answer for 2 marks is magnetic tape can be reused many times and is also portable, so she can secure backups outside the office. So she can take the tape outside the office, and if there was a fire in the office, if the server burnt down, it doesn't matter because she's got the backup stored elsewhere. Now here's an interesting question. D, Kay often prints her work. Describe how an inkjet printer works. Now, inkjet printers you don't see too often nowadays, but here it is in the 2021 paper with a question about it. So where the inkjet printer works is a nozzle moves across the page and squirts ink onto the page through the nozzle to certain places where it's needed, either black and white or with 4 different colours. So the colours are mixed to provide a palette of colours. That's how inkjet works. So for 2 marks I've said a motor moves a nozzle print head across the page, ink is squirted onto the page through the nozzle. Number 2, a printer has 32 megabytes, that's not megabytes, that's megabytes, that's 1024 of cache memory. Construct an expression to show how many bits are in 32 megabytes. So megabytes means 1024. So you need to work out how many bits there are, and it's important that you don't do the calculation. You're not going to get marks for it. You just need to do the expression. So what we need to say is we've got 32 multiplied by 1024 multiplied by 1024 to take us from megabytes to kilobytes to bytes. Then there's 8 bits in the byte, so we multiply all that by 8, and that's going to be our expression. So it's equal to 32, because it's 32 megabytes, times 1024 times 1024. You can obviously do 1024 squared if you want to there, times by 8, because there's 8 bits in a byte. Now if that was gigabytes, then you'd need to multiply it by another 1024. But remember, 32 times 1024 to get to gigabytes, times 1024 to get to bytes. There's 8 bits in a byte, so we multiply that by 8, and that is 3 marks. Number 3, state the output device that will produce this object. Now this object is obviously a 3D printed kind of castle item there. So the output device is a 3D printer. So that's the 3D printer that has made that. E, draw one straight line from each characteristic to the correct hardware. Now the first one we do is has largest capacity. Now that, out of the 4, is the magnetic disk. It has a larger capacity than compact disk. Definitely more than random access memory or RAM, and definitely more than read-only memory or ROM. Stores applications while they're in use. Now that is RAM. Remember, RAM temporarily stores applications when you're using them, and stores instructions needed to load the operating system. That is ROM. Remember, ROM is talking about the BIOS there. BIOS is stored in ROM. So that just leaves compact disk that hasn't been connected. And that is 3 marks, 1 mark for each line. F, here you've got a magnetic drive. Complete the labeling of this image of a storage device. This storage device is a magnetic drive. So number 1 there, it's pointing to the disk. That is called the platter. Number 2 I've already labelled. That is the spindle. And number 3, this head here, that is the read-write head. And that is the labelling of a magnetic hard drive. G, explain one benefit of increasing the size of RAM in a laptop. So you need a benefit, you need to say why it's a benefit for 2 marks. Now my benefit is more applications can be run at once. Okay, that's 1 mark. For 2 marks I need to explain it, because more instructions can be stored in memory locations. You've got more memory locations to store temporary instructions applications that you've opened, which is why you want a lot of RAM, because the more RAM you've got, the more temporary, more applications you can have open at once without the computer completely freezing up. H, and this finishes question 1, explain why print spooling is necessary. Print spooling is the delay between sending something to the printer and it printing, and there is a delay because the printer memory is so small. So large amounts of data are sent to the printer, and the printer can't really cope with it because it hasn't got much memory. So that's why spooling is needed. And that completes question 1 for a total of 20 marks. So that is 20% of the paper total. Question 2. A. K uses a range of software. State the type of utility software that prevents data from being understood without a key. That is encryption software. B. State one reason why data is compressed before being transferred across the network. It's compressed because it might be too big and it needs to be sent more quickly. C. Describe how utility software can reduce access times for large files stored on magnetic media. Now, utility software here is defragmentation software. Imagine that you have a cupboard and you put boxes in it, but you don't put them in very, very kind of thoughtfully. You just put them in here, there, and everywhere. Very soon, you will fill that cupboard. If you took the time to push all the boxes up to one space and arrange it more neatly, you could get more in. It's exactly the same with a hard drive. What defragmentation software does is it moves all the files to one space, thus freeing up quite a bit of space on the software. So it pushes all the files together, freeing up space. That's what defragmentation software is all about. So to explain that in technical terms, defragmentation software places file data in adjacent sectors that frees up space or frees up other sectors for more data. D. State 2 types of application software. You can have as many as you want here. Spreadsheet, word processor, database, just pick 2 really. 1 mark each. So I've gone with spreadsheets because I think they're great. I love spreadsheets, and database because again, databases are really good as well. So I've gone for spreadsheets and database software. And their application software. E, which one of these identifies how OMR recognizes text? OMR stands for optical mark recognition. And the clue is in the name there. It's C, optical. F, describe how application software is different from system software. So the key difference here is application software carries out tasks for the user, like a word processor. System software carries out tasks for the computer, like an operating system. Okay, moving on to G. State 2 features of a blog that are different from the key features of a website. Quite an interesting question, this one. A blog is user-generated content like an online diary. So it will be a single page and it will be a timeline of posts. So a single page and a timeline of posts for 3 marks in total. H. Kay uses software to protect her from risks online. Which one of these is an example of phishing? So A. Email pretending to be from a bank. B. Encrypting data. C. Redirecting web traffic to a fake website. D. Website code copied without permission. So just to be clear, B isn't phishing at all. It's scrambling data. C is actually farming. And D is breach of copyright. So the answer is A. Email pretending to be from a bank. And then which one of these is a risk of phishing? Is it connectivity fault, data deletion, fraudulent activity, or power reduction? It is only fraudulent activity. The idea of phishing is to steal personal details, usually for financial gain for the criminal. So the correct answer to that is C. So that completes question 2 for a total of 13 marks. And I make that up to question 1 and 2 up to 33 marks, so a third the way through. Question 3. Kay can access goods and services online. Online transactions can be tracked. Which one of these is used for transaction tracking? Is it A. Authentication, B. Backups, C. Cookies, or D. Debit cards? Correct answer is cookies. Cookies are files on your computer which record your transactions. B. One type of online service is education and training. Give another type of online service. Can have banking, gaming, shopping. I'm going to go with shopping, I think. Who doesn't like online shopping? Number 2. List 2 features of a virtual learning environment, VLE. There's loads we can have here. Notifications, chat. You can chat to your teacher. Your teacher can post assignments and deadlines. So just pick 2 of those. So I've gone with assignments and chat/messaging. C. Which one of these describes people who are information poor? Well, is it A. Limited access to technology, B. Phishing victims, C. Rural communities using 4G, or write access rather than read access? Well, information poor would mean you've got limited access to technology and limited access to the internet. And C, for example, doesn't really say that using 4G technology. It doesn't say limited access. That might not be limited access. So the correct answer for this is A. And we'll scroll down, move on to the next question. D. Describe 2 positive impacts of the internet on organizations. So there's loads of positives here. Imagine a shop that goes online. They can now reach a global audience and send their products around the world. So I'm going to go with that for the first positive. So I've gone with organizations can now have a global reach, meaning they can sell their goods and services to a worldwide audience. But I need another one for 4 marks because this is 2 marks each. So I've gone for workforce is more able to work from home using the internet, which means there's increased flexibility in the workplace. So I haven't gone for, again, looking at worldwide. You can have worldwide employees because that's kind of like my point for number 1 there. I wanted something a bit different. And I think you should have two very different points there for 4 marks. Otherwise you run the risk of just getting 2 marks because both your points are very, very similar. Here's an interesting question. E. Describe 2 challenges of using an acceptable behavior policy with an online community. So what that means is it's acceptable use policy. So you agree to do or do not do certain things when you use the company's network, computers, internet access, etc. So no game playing, things like that. So what are the 2 challenges involved with that? So the first point I've written there is not everyone will be able to agree on the expectations and responsibilities. So not everyone will be able to agree to that, but you have to have a benchmark start somewhere. But again, not everyone will be able to agree to that. And my second point is it requires constant monitoring to ensure it is enforced and consequences are given out as a result of non-compliance. F, to complete section 3, explain 2 reasons why hosted applications are a better choice than local applications for editing graphics from a smartphone. It's really important when you get a question like this that you read it very, very carefully because you're given a big clue there. It says smartphone. So you're not just describing the difference between hosted versus local applications on a computer. It specifically says a smartphone. So we think about a smartphone, we think about smaller storage. We think about it hasn't got such large storage. So think graphics, clues in the question there as well. Graphics take up large storage space. So a smartphone wouldn't be able to necessarily cope with that. We'd need to store it on a hosted application. So my first point is a smartphone storage might not be enough for storing graphics with large file sizes. Now we need a second point for 4 marks, and we think about the smartphone, which might not have the most powerful processor, unlike on hosted application servers, which will have a better processor for image editing. So my second point is a hosted application server's processor will be more powerful than a smartphone's processor for graphics editing. So the hosted application server will have a better processor and it will be able to cope with graphics editing far better than the smartphone. So that completes question 3 for a total of 17 marks, and I make that up to 50 marks now, so we're halfway through. Question 4. Kay uses the internet to work from home. A. Kay does not have to waste time travelling to work. Describe one other positive impact the internet has on how Kay works. 2 marks. Now, Kay can use the internet to work with other people and share ideas and resources from people from around the world. This will reduce her workload as well. B. When Kay logs on to a browser application at home, she sees the bookmarks that she saved when she was in the office. Describe how this is made possible. The use of the same account and user profile makes synchronizing data possible. C. Which one of these is the role of an ISP, or Internet Service Provider? Is it connects web pages to intermediate servers, gives users access to the internet, prevents security leaks of company information, sets up portal for immediate access? And the answer is B. It gives users access to the internet. D. Complete the description of a secure password. So a secure password should be a mixture of 8 something and a mixture of something and something. So we've got to fill in the blanks to get the 2 marks. Put 8 characters and a mixture of letters and numbers. You could of course have special characters there as well. E. Kay is searching for some information online. Describe 2 ways that Kay can make effective use of a search engine to select information. There's loads of things you could write here. For example, comparing results on different browsers. So you could open up Google Chrome and Safari and maybe even Firefox and compare the results you get. You could use different search engines, comparing Bing with Google, for example. You could filter your results to most recent. You could use keywords, terms to get most relevant results. So for my first point, I put use keywords, terms to return the most relevant results. And for my second point, I put filter date to return the most up-to-date results. So you want the most up-to-date, the most recent results in your search. F. K reduces the risk of electric shock by not having uncovered drinks near a laptop. Complete the table to show 2 other health and safety risks of using ICT and 1 method of prevention for each risk. So we can talk about eye strain, we can talk about repetitive strain injury. I think I'm going to do those 2 health and safety risks, and I'm going to do the method of prevention for my 4 marks. So my first point is eye strain and method of prevention. Take regular breaks, have the screen at eye level. So my second point, I've got RSI, which stands for repetitive strain injury. It's when you use a mouse over a long period of time or keyboards, and the way to reduce that RSI is to use ergonomically designed seating furniture. You can take breaks, use the correct posture. You should be sat up straight. Ideally your arms should be straight, should be parallel with the keyboard, and really your screen should be at eye level ideally. So that's 4 marks. G. Which one of these is used to connect a local area network to a wide area network? Is it gateway, router, wireless access point, or modem? It's not B, because A router forwards packets in a WAN. It's not C, because a WAP provides a connection to a LAN for a wireless device. It's not D, because a modem converts digital signals to and from analog signals. So the correct answer is A, a gateway. H, this diagram shows data sent to a laptop. You've got internet, data and firewall on your laptop there. Describe how the firewall acts on the data that has been sent to the laptop for 2 marks. So how does a firewall work, basically? So a firewall contains a blacklist / whitelist of IP addresses. Data is allowed if it's on whitelist, prevented if it's on the blacklist. I state 2 ways devices are identified on a network for 2 marks. So we've got MAC address and IP address. What's the difference between the two? The MAC address is fixed, the IP address changes. So if you use your device at school, you go home, you have a different IP address. The MAC address is fixed in the factory, the IP address changes. But they're both 2 ways to identify devices on a network. J, big 8 marker to finish question 4, discuss the use of wireless and wired connectivity for a home network. Now usually I'd recommend with a question of 8 marks that you would create a plan. You get an hour and a half for this paper, so usually you should have time to be able to do this. I would definitely create a plan and think very carefully about what you're going to write before you start writing things down in a panic. So I've talked about this in previous videos about creating a plan. I'll link to it in the description, link to it above in the cards. Definitely consider creating a plan before you start to jump in and start writing an answer. Now we need to discuss wired and wireless, and then we need to write a conclusion. Now you need to write a conclusion to get into mark band 3 for 6 to 8 marks, which is what you want. So let's start with the wired network. So a wired network is more secure than a wireless, less likely to be intercepted. A wired network is faster than a wireless network, so there are no blockages due to walls, radio signals, etc. Now you notice my justification there on my text. It's centered. I wouldn't recommend you write like that in your exam paper. You write more neatly than that, because I'm typing it and that's the way it's come out. But definitely marks for handwriting, spelling, punctuation and grammar is very, very important here. So let's look at a wireless network and then we'll conclude the 2. A wireless network is cheaper to set up as no wires are needed. So that is a cost in itself, the wires. Also less expertise. It's pretty much plug and play straight out the box. With a wired network you need some expertise to be able to set that up. A wireless network is more flexible as you can work anywhere within range. So all of these are kind of disadvantages of the wired network. It's kind of implied there. So a disadvantage of a wired network is it's more expensive to set up and it's less flexible. Now you could put those in if you want. You could put the advantages and disadvantages, but I think we'll sum up with our conclusion now. But this is an indicative content. So again, it's not necessarily how much you write, it's the way you write it. It's quality over quantity. And if you think about the examiner with 200 papers to mark in a certain time frame, they're really looking for you to make the point very, very clearly. And if you do that in sort of 10 lines, great. If you do that in 2 pages, great. But I think for the examiner's sake, it would be easier if you did do that if the examiner could see where you've written the points that are going to get the mark within the first few lines, then it's more likely to make the job of the examiner easier, which is exactly what we want to do. So let's conclude this. So your conclusion is really where you show the examiner that you've understood the question and you've got your 8 marks. You secured your 8 marks because you've showed that you understand the difference between wired and wireless. In conclusion, both are used for different purposes. The wired network is more secure and faster, but also more expensive. The wireless network is cheaper to set up and more flexible, but also not as fast or secure. And that is enough for that question. I think with those responses, that indicative response, I think the examiner could give me 8 marks for that. Now that completes question 4 and a total of 28 marks. So now by my maths, we are up to 78 marks and we're over 3/4 of the way there. Question 5. Kay likes to listen to music. A. Kay connects her smartphone to a home entertainment system. 1. Explain one advantage of connecting her smartphone to a home entertainment system. I think for this, connecting to a home entertainment system can enhance the quality of sound because the speakers are better. 2. Give 2 other types of device that Kay could connect to her smartphone. You could have watch, games console, TV, speakers. So I'm just going to pick 2. I've gone with smartwatch and TV. B. Explain one benefit to Kay's lifestyle of being able to listen to audio streamed online rather than downloading it. Now this is something to do with streamed online rather than downloading it to her smartphone. Now she can listen to music on the go because she doesn't need so much storage. She doesn't need a bulky storage device to be able to store the music. She can just listen to music as she goes. So she can listen to music on the go because streaming does not require lots of storage. C. Explain one drawback to musicians of sharing their music online. Musicians can lose revenue from sales because the music can be copied or pirated. That's a big drawback to musicians from sharing their music online. D. Explain one drawback of using cloud storage to back up a digital film library. Uploads will take a long time because bandwidth is limited and file sizes of movies can be very large. E. Explain one reason why films often appear pixelated when they first load from online streaming services. This is down to the bandwidth. The users want to play the film immediately, so often a lower resolution version is downloaded so it can be played immediately. So for 2 marks, the user wants to play their film immediately, so a low resolution version is loaded first because bandwidth is limited. F. K is visually impaired. List 2 ways that an ICT system can be configured to meet the needs of someone with limited eyesight. So there's loads of things here depending on limitation of her eyesight, how limited it is. You can have braille keyboards, you can have text to speech, you can increase the brightness, increase the screen size, the size of the pixels, the fonts, the size of the icons, etc. So you just need to pick 2. So I've gone with braille keyboard and text to speech. G. This is the last question of the paper, the last question of question 5 and the last question of the paper, and it's 8 marks. And again, I've talked about planning this one out. I'm going to show you an indicative content, and as always, you should have a conclusion for 8 marks. It does specifically say, if you read the mark scheme, that for 8 marks, you need to have a conclusion. Now, this question looks at the environmental impact of ICT. Evaluate the choices society must make between expanding the use of ICT and the need to protect the environment. So we need to look at the effect of ICT on the environment and also the way to make ICT more sustainable. So those are 2 headings I'm going to go with. So my first point is the effect of ICT on the environment. So you need to talk about e-waste, electronic waste. When an item becomes obsolete, which means it's no longer viable to be used, it's out of date, it can often lead to waste as the materials are difficult to dispose of. For example, batteries can leak into the environment, leak into the atmosphere, which is a huge problem. So we'll look at ways to make ICT more sustainable. So much of the e-waste can be recycled. Examples is many obsolete working computers can be reused as second-hand devices. Many materials in the device can also be recycled. They can be reused within manufacture. Also, power options, devices can be made to be more power efficient, use less power, consume less power. So making them greener, more environmentally sustainable. So now we'll look at ways that ICT can help the environment. Wildlife can be tracked using ICT. Climate change can be modelled, predicted using ICT. So models can be used to predict and look at climate change. So now what we need is a conclusion to wrap this up. So in conclusion, ICT can be both a force for good and also have negative impacts on the environment. By controlling e-waste, negative effects can be offset, and ICT can also be used to help to protect the environment by using it for monitoring purposes. Now that completes that, so always write a conclusion for these 8-mark questions. Always write a conclusion and always look at both sides of the argument. And that completes question 5 for a total of 22 marks and now a total of 100 marks. So as always, thanks for watching. Link to the paper in the description, link to the mark scheme as well. Thanks for watching. Please, if I've helped you, please consider subscribing and liking this video. Please let me know in the comments how you get on in the exam, and good luck with your exams. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.